This video explores the Japanese influences on a pillow design and the process taken to produce the pillow for a stage 4 or 5 textiles class. Relationships and influences have been drawn to the shibori method of dyeing and treating satin, Mount Fuji in Japan, and contemporary textile design influencer Izumiyaki. The Japanese were introduced to shibori by China in the 8th century from donations of textile items made by Emperor Shomu. Shibori was modified by the Japanese, making it more affordable and becoming popular among the lower class as they were unable to afford the likes of cotton and silk. They renewed second-hand fabrics and cheap hemp using the shibori technique. Shibori further made its way into the Japanese culture and textiles during the 17th to 19th centuries, when trade, art and culture flourished, paving the way for kimonos and textile designs alike. Shibori patterns and designs became traditional to the Japanese people and symbolized religions, families and culture. The digital print incorporated within this project is inspired by Mount Fuji. Created by Reppa app, part of an image of Mount Fuji was turned into a repeated pattern, creating a motif of the sacred mountain. Japan's major religions, Shinto and Buddhism, regard Mount Fuji as sacred land, along with thousands of Japanese people that climb Mount Fuji every year. Mount Fuji has been on the World Heritage List and for its significant influence of Fujism on the Japanese people's perception of nature and their culture as an object of worship, as it symbolizes beauty and perfection. Two elements that shape much of the Japanese culture. Mount Fuji is one of Japan's 3 holy mountains. Shintos and Shigendos worship the mountain. Shintos believe that the natural features such as trees, lakes and rocks are spirits for which shrines exist to identify their location to prey upon. Buddhists believe that mountain climbing is a metaphor for spiritual ascent, and Shigendos trust that those climbing the mountain summits will obtain supernatural powers. In this project, the 3 shades of blue within the patchwork represent the 3 religions that worship it. Mount Fuji, but also the mountain itself. Symbolism and motif as the digital print was developed from an image of Mount Fuji. In Japan, colours are applied to represent and symbolize feelings, rituals, ceremonies, and luck. For example, red is often seen in shrines to scare away evil and symbolize family. Violet or purple is worn by and represents warriors. Irises were the only flowers allowed to be presented to samurais because of its colour and sharp leaves. The colours in this project used as symbolism include blue and pink. The blue on the back piece represents the sea and the sky that sits above Mount Fuji, and in the patchwork symbolises calmness and stability of the people who worship Mount Fuji. Security is symbolized by the blue, also as the culture of Mount Fuji connects and secures the people and their beliefs. The pink symbolizes femininity and love. The pink textured satin is petite yet powerful and stands out. Its textures show curve and further symbolizing femininity. Love is symbolized in this piece to represent the love and connection of belief the Japanese people have for Mount Fuji and the religions which are formed within and around it. When joined together through the patchwork, the blue in the digital print and the pink in the textured satin produce a connected symbolism of the feelings and emotions the Japanese people have for the culture surrounding Mount Fuji, a combination of calmness, stability, security, and love. Each emotion and feeling sewn together to represent Mount Fuji's influence on the Japanese culture. Izumiyaki always conducted himself to think outside the box, not conforming to societal norms. He studied graphic design at Tokyo Art University, studied clothing design in Paris and New York, then founded Miyake Design Studio in 1970. Miyake was known for combining Eastern and Western textile design elements and his collaborations with Tandonori, Yoko, and Adidas. During his extended career, he revitalized traditional dyeing and clothing production methods to meet modern needs with technology. Some of Miyake's collections include Pleats Please, APOC, and Bow Bow. Their descriptions are explained below. The pink textured satin in this project is inspired by Izumiyaki's Pleats Please collection. In the collection, the clothes are cut and sewn together from fabric 3 times larger than the final product. The sewn fabric is then squished between sheets of paper and hand-fed into pleat machines. The permanent pleats that emerge from the machines allow the clothes to expand and shrink as the wearer moves. This process produced textures and form with one piece of clothing. This is evident in the pink texture satin, as it has been heat treated to develop a moving texture using the shibori method. A template has been provided to support understanding of the final product and can be used to create physical templates if printed to the correct size. The list of materials and steps involved are listed on the screen. The first step is to prepare the satin and fabric. For the satin, create a stitch within the satin. This project uses a straight stitch. Carefully gather the satin along the stitch, pulling the thread out until you have developed a texture within the satin. Steam the satin for 60 minutes. This project uses a colander over the top of a pot of boiling water. Let the steamed satin sit for 24 hours, then unpick the stitching. For dyeing the fabric, create a pattern of stitch in the fabric. This project uses a spiral stitch. Carefully gather the fabric along the stitch, following the spiral and pulling the thread out until you have developed a texture in the pattern. Prepare the dye as per its instructions and dye the fabric for the recommended time of the product. This project uses dye-on. The fabric soaked for 45 minutes. Once the fabric is dyed, rinse with cold water and allow to sit for at least 24 hours, then unpick the stitching. Once the satin has been steamed, measure the fabric and cut the pink satin to the correct size, including an allowance for stitching. This project measured 45 centimeters with a 5 centimeter stitch allowance. For the patchwork, use a cardboard to make a template to ensure you have enough fabric to create the patchwork. This project used an 8 centimeter by 7.5 centimeter patch, totaling 24 patches. Once marked, cut the patches out. When your satin has been cut to the correct size, you can join them together and then add the backing piece. This project had 2 pieces of satin joined together to create the one side. Once the pieces are joined together, pin the textured satin to the backing piece of white fabric and then sew them together using a pattern of stitch to complete the texture. Once that is done, join your patches together. This project had 24 patches to create a pattern. Pin 3 patches together and sew them together. Once each of the rows is sewn together, join each row. Finally, pin the patched and textured sides together, ready to be sewn. Then sew them together. Once the 2 sides have been attached, cut off any excess edging and turn the right way out, adjusting and mitering corners as needed.